this is Dread here. Welcome back. Today we're going to be getting into some support and resistance training a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the different types of support and resistance levels, and how you can use them to find entries and exits, or how I use them, of course. So let's go ahead and get into it. In this video, I will briefly explain what support and resistance is. I'm not going to go in depth. I'm going to explain the different types of support and resistance levels, and I'm also going to explain how I use these levels to find entry and exit points for my trades. I'm going to give some examples of some trade setups, and I'm also going to do a video on how I plot my support and resistance levels on the chart. So, if you find this information useful, please leave a like. It shows me that I am helping you guys and that you guys want me to continue making these videos and continue doing all the tutorials and the analysis videos and things like that. So please leave a like if you enjoyed this stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, share this content with other traders, with other people who you think that this might benefit with. Just share it. It's free. It's out here for everybody. So you might as well share it for other people to benefit as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So support and resistance. It is one of the most commonly used forms of technical analysis, used, okay? Obviously. And it should be one of the first things you learn about when you begin trading. So whenever you get into, whether it be stocks, Forex is what I do, obviously. So Forex, it should be one of the first things that you learn about whenever you start diving into trading itself. And, the majority of successful traders are using support and resistance levels to find entry and exit points. There's a ton of free information out there that will teach you in detail the cause of S&R levels, but we're going to keep it pretty brief and simple. Support and resistance is based on supply and demand. Okay, these levels are formed when there is a shift between buying and selling power, where there's more buyers than sellers at one point, or there's more sellers than buyers at points, increase in demand and decrease in supply and vice versa. Things like that. That's what's going to cause these levels to form. And you can obviously find information online to know more about why exactly these levels are being formed, why this is happening. We're not going to get into that here. This is something that you should already know. If you're watching this video, you should already have some knowledge about Forex. So, yeah, that's just something that you should do some more research on your own if you're not comfortable with or don't know enough about. So, this is just a really basic example of resistance and support levels, okay? Up here at the top, you have your resistance level. And down here at the bottom is where you're going to have your supports, okay? Tops are, resistance. Bottom is support. Very simple. This is not a very detailed S&R chart. This is just a very basic one. We're going to get more in depth here in a little bit. So how are new S&R levels formed? Okay. When price breaks an S&R level, a new support or resistance level will be formed. Okay. So for example, if price breaks and closes below the support level, and then, it fails to come back up above that support level, then that support level becomes the new resistance. Is that always true though? No, because there can be news, there can be a lot of fake outs, played on you by the market, news, high impact news and things like that, things that cause the market not to follow technicals. Those are kind of things that can fake you out. They can break support levels or resistance levels and then come directly back into them to try to trap traders and things like that. So you have to be very careful when you're watching these levels. You don't want to enter too soon, being impatient and get screwed over because you got tricked by the market. So no, it's not always true that whenever a level is broke, it forms a different level. It can just be a fake out. So don't get played. I wouldn't consider a level broken unless there's some strong momentum in a certain direction and a strong close above or below the S&R level. Okay? So basically, the chart has to have a strong directional bias for me to, in a close above or below a level that I'm watching, for me to consider it broken, and then also to get that, the retest and the failure to break back into those levels, for me to really, consider them broken levels. So this is going to be an example of how a support level is now a resistance level. You see the top resistance here, okay? But you kind of see that it has a support level in here because the market is kind of trending sideways. Right here, it's got some support. You see it kind of got a break of that support, which, might surprise or, get some people, excited. But as you can see, it immediately engulfed this. We're looking at a 15-minute chart here. And it immediately came right back into the zone and didn't clear it. So obviously it's time to wait. And I'm sure, people might have entered here and then got trapped when it came back up. They probably had stop losses up here in this level somewhere. Who knows? A lot of retail traders trade like that, and that's why they fell. Okay, so once we got back, we rejected the resistance again after getting the false breakout. We just kept getting a lot of rejection from the resistance level. And we finally got a super strong close below this support level here. A really strong bearish close right here. It broke the support level very strong, it also broke, I don't have trend lines drawn on here, but, it broke a trend, and it also came right back up to this level, this previous support level here, with this wick, and tested it. And it completely failed. As you see, there was just no chance in all. The bull power is all gone. The sellers have taken over. So that level has now been confirmed as a new resistance level. Okay? I'm hoping you guys understand that. It was a support level here as it bounced around during the range. A strong close, a retest, and a failure. A major failure. And a confirmation of a new resistance level formed. Okay. But let's talk about the two different types of support and resistance levels. There are major support and resistance levels, and there are also minor support and resistance levels. And it is important to know both of them. So let's go ahead and get into it. Major levels. Your major support and resistance levels will be marked up on the large time frames, usually monthly and weekly charts, sometimes daily, not for me, maybe for others. But for me, monthly and weekly is where I'm going to mark my major, support and resistance levels. Major support and resistance levels are indicated by large price pivots, usually hundreds to thousands of pips in these moves. These are your major tops and your major bottoms, your highs and your lows. Okay, these are going to be the levels where you see the biggest shift between buyers and sellers. So let's look at an example. Right here you see this is a USD Japan weekly chart. And you see these levels right here. These are your major support and resistance levels. This is a major level here. We've got a very large move here that moved in, and then it just dropped completely here. And it formed a major support level. Okay, and then another large, large pip moved right back up to, almost this level and formed that level, and then came all the way back down and formed this low right here, which is the lowest, support level there is for the yen. And then, it just steamrolled its way over the years right back up into the support area, these major support areas, or resistance areas. I'm sorry, please excuse me. It is 3 o'clock in the morning over here. I'm a little tired. So if I say some stuff backwards, I'll try to correct myself. But yeah, it came right back up into these resistance levels and then came right back down and formed a new, major support area. And, right now it formed another major resistance level right there. But, you see where I'm talking about, large moves. I didn't add the price points, but these are, hundreds to thousands of pips right here. We're looking at a weekly chart. So, these are large moves. These are your large major pivot points on the charts. Right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. And I'll usually mark these with a different color than my minor support and resistance levels. Okay, so my minor support and resistance levels, they're going to be formed in the areas of confluence between the major support and resistance levels. So they're going to be the little, up downs in between where the major pivot points are happening, the pullbacks and things like that. These are your minor shifts between those supply and demand. Most of your support and resistance levels will be marked up from a 4-hour all the way down to a 1-minute chart for me, because I'm scalp trading. These are my favorite levels to use when I'm finding trades to enter. And, minor support and resistance levels are some of my favorite things to use when I'm looking for take profit levels. I like to use a lot of previous minor support and resistance levels to find take profits. And we're going to kind of get into that here. But we're going to look at an example of some minor support zones here that I've marked up. This is a 15-minute chart. And you see, you just get, 20, 40, 50, 60 pip moves, nothing really extravagant, You got these just small zones that are getting formed throughout. There's even smaller zones that are being formed within these zones that I don't have marked because I didn't want this chart to get too crazy. When you're scalping, you're looking at a lot of zones and a lot of small zones that get even more finite than this. And I'll even show you some here in a little bit. So how do I use these levels to enter and exit trades? Okay, so when I'm looking to enter trades, I'm always just waiting for breakouts of major and minor support and resistance levels. I'm also using trend lines and support and resistance levels, in a combination. I'm using trend and S&R levels in a combination for my strategy to find these breakouts. Most of the time, if I can get a breakout that's breaking out of a S&R level and a trend, those are your better confirmation trades right there. But, I like to use trend and S&R when I'm trading, okay? I'm not using S&R levels to call tops and bottoms. I did that when I first started. The first couple of years I was in this, I was more about trying to, catch the price at the very top and, ride it all the way down to the very bottom. But I found that not to be as accurate as just trading with momentum and things like that. Over the years, obviously back testing and obviously just trading live, I find that when you're not trying to call tops and bottoms and you're just trading along with the momentum right here, you're having much more success and you're not having to watch trades for as long because, I was swing trading then, but now I'm just scalping. Okay. So I use a lot of previous S&R levels whenever I'm trading zone to zone. When I'm looking at breakouts, I get a breakout and some retests and I get a nice little entry point. Then I'm going to start looking at previous minor S&R levels to look for, target 1, target 2, target 3, however many trades, because I do like to compound my entries. And then look for, most of the time the same take profit, but usually I'll let some run, 10 pips, 20 pips, 30 pips at the most, but I'm usually trying to aim for 10 pips or to at least the previous lead made support and resistance level that was made after the breakout. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. Okay, so looking at the USD Japan 15-minute chart, this was a chart from actually not too long ago today. And I kind of showed you this one earlier as well in this video. You see we had a minor resistance level formed, and we had the minor support level that formed here. Okay, these are previous S&R levels that I have marked on the chart that have happened, throughout the last day, 2-3 days, whatever. I just want to have them in the back of my mind. I usually, for my minor support and resistance levels, I'll go back a few, a week, 2 weeks at most, really, when I'm trying to chart, minor support and resistance levels. You don't want to just overflow your chart with too many because you'll just get completely confused. So these are some of the previous support and resistance levels from the past week or so. And so when price broke the current minor support level that it had right here during this sideways trend, I started watching this trade to see if we were going to get any kind of pullback to, this area, or maybe one of these previous support and resistance levels before we continue down, because that was a very strong bearish close. And, after a lot of rejection of the resistance level. So once we got up into this level, I obviously went down to a smaller time frame where I could see more candles that are forming, and I started looking for my entry point after I started seeing the rejection of this previous support level, which is becoming the resistance. Okay, so we're gonna look at the 1 minute chart, but before we do that, I want you to notice how price just this move here to this move here is about 10 pips, and it's like about 20 pips. To here, 10 pips between these two. And then another 10 between these two. So that's 20 pips right there between two previous resistance S&R levels. That's money for me. And I don't know why I didn't take this trade earlier. I actually gave it to somebody on Instagram who was messaging me about it. And I didn't even enter because I didn't really sit down at my desk to look at the chart. I kind of just glanced over it through my phone, to be honest. And I was kind of kicking myself for sitting out on this one, because I've done a lot of sitting out this week. I spent all this morning dealing with hard drive issues. But SSDs now, baby, no worries there. But okay, back to the charts here. Break of the support here. Retest to that support. So let's look at the 1 minute chart. So this is that retest to that support zone, which is broken here. You see how we got up to this and it just completely engulfed this candle here. We came right back down and engulfed it. It didn't want nothing to do with it. It came and it tested it again and it tested it again, but we never got a strong close or a close at all above that broken support. So whenever this candle formed here, this engulfing candle here, that's whenever I started entering these trades, and then I started looking at previous support and resistance. Or that's where I would have entered this trade and looked for previous support and resistance levels to take my take profits at. Entering around here after this candle closing and engulfing that, I was pretty confident that, even if I did get a little, retest and if I did have to sit negative for a bit, it was probably going to just form a flag, but it didn't do that. What it did is it continued downward after the strong bearish close. We got a little fight back to the retest and formed the new resistance level here, and then it just continued downward. So with this closing and engulfing, you could have rode this trade right down here to one of these previous support levels. From there to there, it's about 10 pips, and from this one to this one, that's going to be pretty close to 10, 15 pips maybe. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on that. If you want to go look at the chart yourself, you can. So, when you're looking for exit points following breakouts in momentum, previous S&R levels make great take profit levels. As you can see, that's why, when I'm entering trades, I'm finding breakouts, I'm getting these retests, and I'm seeing the failure of the retest. And when I'm entering trades, I'm looking for, these previous minor support and resistance levels over the past day or week or so. And I'm using those as, reference points for take profits. If they're within a reasonable range. If there's one that's 60 pips away, that's not reasonable for me because I'm scalp trading. So I'm not going to try to aim for that. I'm going to try to aim for my 10 pips. I might set a stop loss and profit and try to go for 20 pips then. But for the most part, 10, 20 pips is what I'm happy with. And then I'll wait for the next setup. I'll wait for the next pullback, and then I'll enter again after the failure and ride it right back down to the next S&R zone. Okay, and this is just another setup here on a long position. You have your minor support here, and you have your minor resistance here. You break that resistance. We had a very strong break of that resistance here, a bullish break. It made a new high right here, and then it came back down to retest this resistance level, which is becoming a support level now after the failed attempts. And so what you could do is, this is something that I do a lot and I find is very accurate when I'm trading these breakouts. If I'm getting strong breakouts and small, retested zones, price will generally always come back to this level here. When you get the breakout, price is always going to come to at least this level. So if you can get a breakout and a pullback of at least 10 to 15 pips, and you see rejection on the smaller time frames, we're just looking at a 15-minute time frame here, but obviously I'm looking for rejection. We got a nice rejection here. We came into this and rejected it. So this is a trade that I entered, and I wrote it right back up to this level here. That was my first take profit, and then obviously we have a previous support and resistance level here. And as you can see, price went right to it. And again, it came down, tested again this broken resistance, which has become a support level at this point. Tested the support again. It, came through the support, but it didn't really come through the support. It immediately came right back up into the, above the support and continued upwards with its upward momentum. Again, testing this level and this level again. These are all easy trades that you can take. If you're seeing these breakouts and you're being patient and watching these charts and you're not taking them too soon, because you don't want to be faked out by the market, because, I'm sure a lot of people be like, oh, it's ready to plummet back down now and, entered short and got trapped. But you don't want to trade like those guys. You want to follow the momentum. We got some strong bullish momentum here. We got rejection, of the sellers and more bull power, and you just ride the wave. It's that simple, guys. Okay? So that's going to be pretty much it for the slideshow educational part of the video. The next part of the video will be me showing you how I plot these lines on my charts. So I hope you're still here. Stick around, and we're going to go ahead and get into that. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into how I plot my SNR levels on the chart. We're looking at USD Japan weekly right here. I'm going to switch to the line chart. This is going to show me the exact points of open and close for the price. I'm going to take my horizontal lines, and I'm going to start at the back here. I'm going to find that very first high, and that's going to be my first major resistance level. And then another level is formed here. Okay, you see that one here, how it came up and formed this level here and then dropped. And then you've got one that was formed here in between these two levels that, looking at this weekly chart may not seem like, why would you need to put all these levels in here? Well, these, if you look over here, there's a lot of price difference in between these moves. We're looking at a weekly chart here, so there's huge price gaps between these moves. So when you get down to the smaller time frames, these major support and resistance levels, they're going to be spread out more. They're not going to look so clustered together, and then you can really start using them to spot out, entry points, exit points, breakouts, things like that when you're looking for trades. Okay. And I'm going to keep all of my major SNR levels one color, and I'm going to have my minor SNR levels another color. So keep that in mind when you're trading. Try to change up the colors. Keep in mind so that, when price is reaching a certain zone, a previous zone that's been marked, whether it's just a minor zone or a major zone. So you can, obviously keep that in mind when you're making your trades. So change the colors of the zones when you are marking them on your charts. We'll start in the back here. We got our first major support area there. And it came down to here. And then we have this one right here. Okay. So these are going to be some of your major support and resistance areas on the chart where you see prices made, huge movements. I would even consider this one here, with this big move that it's made here, we'll see where things end up. We could probably put one there at the bottom as well. We got a break of that zone. And that's something that I've been trading here recently, a lot of shorts. And what we can do is, now that we have all of our major support and resistance levels marked up on this weekly chart, I'll come down to the the daily. Sorry, I don't know if you hear that, but my neighbors have a new driveway being put in or some shit like that. I'm not even sure. What is that? Some curbside stonage thing for their driveway. Yeah, whatever. And so sorry if you hear construction trucks outside. So let's get back to this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to scale out a little bit. I'm going to look for some other zones, some minor zones to mark that I want to keep in my mind when I'm looking for trades. So I'm not going to go back far. I'll probably go back, 2016, and I'll mark some zones here on the chart. Obviously we have these zones here. We can mark these, and these are going to be changed. These are going to be minor zones. Yellow, we'll go with that, make it easy to see. We got this one here that was formed. We've got this minor support area that was formed in here. Okay. We've got these little minor pivot points. Anywhere you see price make, a decent size move, these become points of interest on the chart for later on. Okay, so I'm going to get this support area here. I'm going to get this resistance area. I'm going to mark this support area from the past, which you can see is price is currently at right now. So we're going to see how price reacts to this level. As price has reacted, a little crazy at this level a couple times now. And then we're just going to keep moving forward to the chart, with the time frames, finding these different levels, marking them. Sorry about that. And you especially want to get into, the more recent times. Those are the ones that are going to be the most important, especially the ones that are more close to the price or where price is currently at. Those are the ones that, you're going to want to definitely mark on your charts. Like these support and resistance areas, and all through the line chart. I'm not using the candle chart. Candles just get in the way when you're marking these things. That's why when you look at my charts, I know some people say it looks ridiculous. I know there's a lot of lines on here now. But, when I trade the way I trade, all of these play a big part into, what I'm doing. So now, when I'm going down to start looking for, trades to enter, I'm usually looking at the 15-minute chart after I've made my analysis from the weekly and the daily and the 4-hour and things like that. Then I'm going to be on this 15-minute chart looking at some of these zones that are marked from the daily. And now we're going to mark up some minor zones, which are going to be, sometimes I'll leave them the same color as the daily minor zones, but we'll change them up just for your guys' sake so you can see what I'm talking about. We have price looking at the 15-minute here. I'm just looking at, probably the last few days, weeks, whatever. Not weeks, probably not even that. And I'm going to, mark up some zones that have been playing around for the past few sessions. like this one. You get in there, find the very tip top, and we'll go ahead and change that to red, and these will be our 15-minute zones, minor zones. We have these here. See that zone there? Okay, I'm going to mark that. I'm going to mark this support zone here and this resistance level here. So you see these zones I'm marking over here? You know, I want to keep my eye on all of these. You know, all these prices become important to me. Usually when I'm doing videos, I'll clear my charts off so it's easier to see for you guys, and I'll only keep the important ones. So this is why most of the time when you're watching my videos, you don't see this many lines on my chart, because I try to clean it up so it's easier for everyone to see. But yeah, this is basically what my chart looks like. I don't use any indicators, but I'm usually covered in lineage, horizontals. But you know, these are areas that I use for take profits, entry points, things like that. You know, I'm reference points for entries, reference points for take profits, things like that. You know, and it helps me a lot, as you can see. You know, my 10 pips. You know, if I can get these zones, these minor zones that are 10 pips apart, you know, I'm trading them zone to zone. You know, looking at the chart, if I'm getting breakouts, you know, like even looking at it here, the way that USD Japan is setting up, you know, it's setting up nicely to continue short, as long as we don't get a breakout of this, you know, top daily zone here. You know, I would trade this. Let's zoom in a little bit on this. Now you're starting to see, when you're scalping, these zones get spread apart, and they just become areas where you can start using as reference points for take profits and stuff. We're getting the rejection of this zone here. Okay, so we're getting a nice rejection. So if I get a breakout of this area, you know, we've got a nice little formation, little wedge formation forming here. So, you know, you watch this thing right here for a breakout, you know, with it rejecting that top zone like that. I definitely could see it breaking to the downside, coming up, possibly testing this little support area that it's forming around here. I don't want to use this. You know, this little support area that it's got forming here. You know, it could break out of that, come up into this area, possibly even retest this. And then, you know, I'm going to use this point right here as a target. You know, even maybe this point as a target. You know, these are just scalping targets. And these are zones that I have marked from the daily and the weekly and the 15-minute chart from the past. You know, obviously the daily I've gone back and back. But with the weekly, you know, the 15-minute, I've gone, you know, back just a week or so. You know, I try not to go back too far. And that's where I'm getting these zones, and these are how I'm finding take profit levels and entry points and things like that. You know, so these are zones that you want to pay attention to. Trading zone to zone, I find it to be the most successful scalping method there is. You know, trading the breakouts, only trading the breakouts. You know, like this one here that's set up, and I believe I discussed this one. It's just such a beautiful little setup. You know, how it broke this support level here, came back and retested it, and just went down through several previous zones that it had here. So again, you know, I'm starting on the weekly chart to mark the major tops and bottoms on these charts. And then I'm scaling into the daily and then into the 15-minute chart. And then, you know, whenever I'm starting to get breakouts through the 15-minute chart on patterns, I'll go down to the 1-minute chart and start looking for that retest levels and start looking for those engulfing patterns and rejections and look to enter my trades to take my 10, 20 pips and just eat them all day, every day. Not even every day. I'm lying. I don't trade every day. I only trade when I see certain setups that I like. So yeah, and that's another reason why I stay consistent is I'm not trying to force trade. I'm only taking the very best setups, the setups that I like to trade, and they all generally, for the most part, will play out the same, This is basically the same setup here. You got a flag with a breakout, got some retest. You do probably have some retest in here. Not much, but there's a small amount of retest. But with the breakout, you just follow the momentum on the trade, and you can get in on this retest and write it down, and that's what I've been doing. But these patterns set up time and time again in the chart, so when you've been watching them for a long time, it just becomes easier. So don't be discouraged when you're starting out and just start trading, you're getting frustrated. Don't get down on yourself. The more time that you put into this, the easier it will become. I promise you guys that. The more time you put in, the easier it becomes. It's that simple. You just got to be on these charts, and you got to be watching. You've got to be analyzing. You've got to be asking yourself why it's doing this, why it's doing that, and then trying to figure out when it does something, why it did exactly that. And, it'll just become easier for you guys. So, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you have questions, you can always message me on Instagram or through here at dread.pirate.forex. It's the same for both. And I will always do my best to answer your questions and help you out as much as I can. I want to see everybody succeed in this. This is a great opportunity for people to make money without having to start with $10,000, $20,000. You can start with a small amount and really build that up. So, I really think this is a great, career choice for people to take. And I really think that if you take it serious, it can, really be beneficial for you. So I like to share this information with people, and I hope you guys take this information if it's useful and you find that it is helpful, and you share it with other people as well. The more people who know about investing, the better we can do for the planet and our world. More and more people are getting out of poverty and things like that. So share the information if you find it useful. Leave a like if you liked it, and of course subscribe, follow along, and I will continue to add content. Again, this is Dread, and I'm signing out.